it's a very dangerous environment.
There are some drunk individuals going to the race today. Once the Indianapolis 500's done, the 465 500 begins.
The incidents that happen is caused by people that don't pay attention.
No matter what the weather is, we're always on the road.
These people are beyond dedicated. As our parents always told us, don't play in traffic, but here we are as an adult, and we have to do what they call the 3-lane dash to retrieve something from the roadway.
You never know from day to day what you might encounter.
Hoosier Helper. The story of Indiana's Hoosier Helpers is made possible through the support of the following sponsors.
When the unexpected happens on the road, State Farm is there to help you get to a better state. Proud sponsor of Hoosier Helpers, and by a grant from Iron Mountain Systems.
While cruising along the causeways of most Indiana metro areas, there's a good chance you've seen them on the shoulders of the interstates. But just who are those guys in the big white trucks with all the lights and sirens? And why do we see them out on our roads? Well, in case you're still left wondering, they're the Hoosier Helpers, and there's a good chance they handle quite a bit more out on the Indiana thoroughfares than you may have ever imagined.
People have that misunderstanding that we just drive around, give out gas, and change tires. That's our secondary mission. Our primary mission is interstate. Anything that impedes, slows traffic, restricts traffic, that's our job. Our secondary mission is we drive around and we assist motorists as much as we can.
With the primary goal of keeping traffic moving, the Hoosier Helpers get into a little bit of everything out on the roads. But a program capable of handling so many different types of traffic incidents didn't pop up overnight. It took a vision and some determination, which the organization's founders had an abundance of. Though they didn't have all of the high-tech traffic management equipment the group has today, more than 20 years ago, a small group of Indiana Department of Transportation volunteers were ready to tackle the roads ahead and make them safer for Indiana's motoring public.
The Hoosier Helper program started in Indiana in 1991 up in our LaPorte district at a time when congestion was building at a significant rate, and it became apparent that the pace of roadway construction, expansion projects for added capacity wouldn't necessarily be able to keep pace with demand. So we realized here in Indiana that we needed to make an effort to conserve the existing capacity of our roadways, and specifically that was done through this Hoosier Helper program. It started on Labor Day weekend. Essentially, we had some folks up there that took a truck from our auction lot, equipped it with a toolbox and some traffic control devices, and went out and started helping people.
A single semi crash back then on a small lane freeway was really able to shut down the Borman, and it was one of the most truck-traveled interstates in the United States. The program became really vitally successful right away. It was patterned off of some of the Illinois Minutemen.
The city of Chicago has a similar program called the Minuteman program, which has existed since the 1960s. So this wasn't necessarily a program that was invented, but we did certainly adapt it to the needs of motorists here in Indiana. The Hoosier Helper program was part of a larger initiative known as Intelligent Transportation Systems, which has a few different purposes. One is we work hand in hand with other emergency service providers to address lane restricting incidents. So it could be anything from a vehicle stalled on the road, debris that perhaps fell from a passing vehicle, or it might be the car crash or the overturned truck. We found that with the arrow board on the truck and the traffic control devices, the signage and cones, we could get more traffic around that incident scene than if they were not there providing that service. And with them addressing those traffic management needs, the law enforcement and fire and EMS personnel could really focus on their specific task and not having to dedicate a portion of their resources for traffic control. In addition to those lane restricting incidents, the Hoosier Helpers were assigned patrol areas, and they would stop to help motorists that, for example, ran out of gas or had a flat tire but were pulled off onto the shoulder of the roadway.
On my way home, my tire exploded. I thought I was going to have a difficult time changing my tire, and I'm really glad they stopped by and helped me out today. It really made my day.
Soon after the launch of the Hoosier Helpers, the state of Indiana quickly started to see the benefits of the group. They found that for every minute of traffic restriction, it causes 4 minutes of traffic backup on the highway. That ratio quickly cost the public a lot in terms of fuel expenses, greenhouse gas emissions, delivery of goods and services, and so on. In 1997, after the Hoosier Helpers had been around for a while, Purdue University did a study of the economic impacts of the group and found that between 1991 and 1997, more than 37,000 road incidents were addressed by the only Hoosier Helper outfit in existence. When factoring the costs caused by traffic delays, they were getting $4.71 in benefits for every dollar spent. Once the Gary outfit added 24-hour support, that ratio went even higher. In fact, just between the months of June and December 1996, the group saved the taxpayers over $5 million. Not too bad for a group starting with one truck and a couple of volunteers. With all of these benefits, it just made sense to expand the program. So on Labor Day weekend, 1997, exactly 6 years after the program started in Gary, Indiana, the Hoosier Helpers expanded to Indianapolis. And just as there were humble beginnings in northern Indiana, Indianapolis started with only a few people with a dedication to the mission.
We only had 2 trucks. We only run the northeast side of Indianapolis because we only had one person for each shift. And then after that, we just started expanding and we started looking at where's the traffic density, where do we really need personnel at.
The Hoosier Helper program expanded as part of a more comprehensive strategy to address congestion mitigation in the Indianapolis area. And that consisted of partnering with the Indiana State Police on design and construction of a state-of-the-art traffic management center. Also, technology assets that we've deployed. That includes the electronic highway signs, closed-circuit television cameras, and traffic flow sensors. And all of those systems working in concert comprise this advanced traffic management system that INDOT now operates here in the Indy metro region.
The Indy Hoosier Helper branch has grown to cover more than 64 miles along the region's highway system. In 1999, just 2 years after the Indianapolis expansion, the program began serving the Louisville Falls City area in southern Indiana. Over the years, all of the communities served have seen countless benefits from this group's devotion to keeping traffic flowing. The transformation from humble beginnings to helping tens of thousands of motorists every year didn't happen overnight. While the program was growing, the responsibilities of the Hoosier Helpers evolved as well.
As the program got established, we were able to complete after-action reviews when we'd have different types of incidents, and some of the outcomes of those discussions were different types of tools, for example, that they needed to carry aboard the trucks, different types of training that they needed to receive.
The Hoosier Helpers are prepared for a variety of unpredictable situations. After being assisted by the group for a dead battery, even Indiana's First Lady was surprised to find out some of the Hoosier Helpers' other responsibilities.
It doesn't always have to be a situation where your car broke down. You know, maybe someone is suffering from extreme heat or extreme cold, and that's somebody that can get to them and get them where they need to be to get the proper treatment and care.
When we roll up on the scene, we do what we call an assessment. We make sure there's no fluids, gasoline, oil, something that could be dangerous to our guys. Then we'll immediately start going in and see if we start finding anybody. We do find personnel. At that time, we do get first aid. We tell our dispatch, hey, we have an entrapment. One scenario, you might have an entrapment with an adult and a child. So which one do you give first aid to first? You have to find out who's the worst one and go from there. It's just the way it works.
We're trained in a wide variety of areas and are expected to know them areas. We do training every other week on a specific job that we do out here on the interstate to make what we do better. There's always room for improvement. That's what we strive to do.
465.
So right now they have kind of a hybrid skill set, everything from some automobile mechanics to first aid, CPR. We now carry portable defibrillators on our response vehicles, hazardous materials training, so that in the event a truck is tipped over, they know how to safely assess that situation, not only for their safety, but for the public that we serve. They've been trained to land medical helicopters on or near the highway, and that was done in working with partnership with the other emergency responders.
These partnerships that have been built with other emergency response organizations are a critical part of the success of the Hoosier Helper program.
We have a good working relationship with all the local responders, EMS, fire, Indiana State Police. You know, if it's a severe accident, every minute counts.
We're definitely in the pattern here.
Every minute does count, and that's one of the reasons the Hoosier Helpers train alongside nearly all the local emergency response units at some point each year. Sometimes multiple emergency response agencies will even run through a real-world scenario together.
It's just basically doing a mock exercise. When we get to an accident scene, there's a lot of information that needs to be relayed to the emergency responders when they get to the scene. You know, if we have an entrapment, if the person has a pulse, whatever the situation might warrant. So when they first get to the scene, they can start their appropriate action.
Take it on that side, tell them to go ahead, roll it.
Good to go? All right.
By training directly alongside fellow emergency responders, the Hoosier Helpers receive hands-on experience in emergency management. This type of collaboration helps all of the emergency response units work in harmony to swiftly assess any roadside crisis and get the situation under control quickly, always in hope of the best possible outcome. It is not always the big accident scenes that the group trains for. A significant part of the job is working toward preventing accidents from happening at all.
A lot of people are pulled off on the shoulder on the interstate thinking that's safe, talking on a cell phone rather than driving. Well, in a way it is safe, but they don't realize they're putting themselves in jeopardy by sitting on the side of the highway.
The most important thing is the motoring public safety. We need to get that travel flow going so nobody else will have no secondary accidents. Even though a motorist is sitting on the side of the road, there's still a traffic hazard because several things happen. Either someone takes their eyes off the road to look at the car on the side of the road, or their view is blocked by a semi. All of a sudden traffic comes to a quick stop. So what's your first reaction? Go to the shoulder. The car's sitting there, it's either occupied or abandoned. Now you got a bad accident. So we do what we can to help these people. If we can't get their car started, we'll get them a wrecker service. If we can't afford that, we'll try to push them somewhere on the shoulder, or we'll take them to what they call a safe haven until they can make arrangements to come back and get their cars.
The secondary accidents caused by stalled or abandoned vehicles often prove themselves to be much more severe than a typical moving accident. Anything blocking a lane or shoulder poses a serious risk of causing one of these types of accidents. So the Hoosier Helpers also help clear abandoned vehicles from the interstates.
We check all abandoned vehicles because we have found people having seizures or diabetic problems, heart attacks. Even though the car looks like might not be nobody in it, there could be somebody in there, and we have found that.
Part of the Hoosier Helpers' mission is not only to keep traffic moving, but also to help lighten the load on emergency services such as police and fire during emergency highway responses. The Traffic Management Center is a fundamental part of the Hoosier Helper program's success and is one element within a more comprehensive strategy to address traffic congestion.
The Traffic Management Center is the use of technology to help traffic move through a given area while saving cost in terms of building new roads. NDOT has put sensors in the roadway to help detect traffic speeds, cameras up in the air to help detect what traffic is doing at a given moment, and then built the infrastructure around the dispatcher and the Hoosier Helpers to keep traffic flowing as quickly as possible.
Trying to equip our Hoosier Helpers with tools that they can communicate with state troopers and share information was very valuable. Being able to communicate the location of an event, or hey, I have arrived on scene and this is what I'm dealing with.
Once they give us that information, we try to get to the scene as soon as possible.
We can see almost a mile in each direction.
313.
The sooner we can pinpoint the location of the problem, the sooner not only can we get the Hoosier Helper there on scene, but also the other emergency response agencies as well. And the sooner we can get the right resources on scene, the sooner we can get traffic conditions restored to their normal state.
Outside of maintaining constant communication with the Indianapolis Traffic Management Center, keeping each of these trucks safely rolling down the road at 1,000 miles a week takes quite a bit of maintenance. The Hoosier Helpers have their own fully capable garage where they perform a number of mechanical tasks to keep the trucks moving.
We take the tires off, check all the brakes, check all the pressures, change oil, fuel filters, check for any worn parts. If I find anything that's questionable, it comes off. For what they have to do, they have to be in good shape.
Having such extensive maintenance capabilities contributes to the Hoosier Helpers pushing their service vehicles to the limits. These trucks typically rack up over 300,000 miles apiece. Along these thousands of miles covered each day by the organization, sometimes downright comical situations develop that no one could have ever predicted.
Just when you thought you had heard them all, you would hear of a new story.
And we've had porta potties in the middle of the roadway.
Loads of bricks.
I remember one time that we got called out.
Sheets of drywall.
We had some piglets running down the interstate.
Good Samaritans stopping to help a mother duck and her ducklings.
One time it was a semi-truck loaded with little bottles. At first we didn't know what they were.
And we had a contest as what is this? And we had numerous people guess a little bit of everything.
It could have been test tubes for scientific experiments, it could have been anything. But in this particular case, it was something that we use every single day.
This is a 2-liter bottle. And somewhere they put it on the machine, they heat it up, and it swells up and turns into a 2-liter bottle. And these were everywhere.
There were thousands. There were boxes and boxes of these, and they had to come back in with a bobcat and clean these things up.
A lot of strange things seem to end up on the roadway. In fact, this story started as a result of one of those unusual occurrences. In October 2007, the Hoosier Helpers were part of a story that gained national attention when a young man from England and a couple of his friends were on a mission to drive a London double-decker bus across the U.S.
The men thought that they could clear an overpass on I-65, but they were wrong.
We were coming down the interstate and we basically went under a bridge that we thought we could get under, and we were a little bit too low. So we just sort of clipped the roof off the top of the bus.
That's when the Hoosier Helpers and other Indiana emergency personnel were called into action. That chance meeting with the highway outfit was the foundation for a desire to tell their story by Nathan and consequently WFYI. So some pretty funny and strange things seem to happen out on the road sometimes, and one never knows just where those strange occurrences will lead. But there are far too many other instances when much more serious situations occur.
City GMC 832, medical emergency, I need a 1052. He's having a seizure.
We'll need you to lay all the way back, all right? How old are you, hon?
I've got a 37-year-old female having seizures.
Since life or death emergencies happen far too often on the highways, in 2004 the Hoosier Helpers began carrying heart defibrillators in all of their trucks, just for those unthinkable situations that seem to happen to motorists out there on the roadway. In August of 2010, that's exactly what happened in the Hoosier Helpers district in Gary, Indiana.
Actually, it was a quiet day. Matter of fact, Officer Turner was stopping in here. Brett and myself and Dale were all talking in the garage. He works for Motor Carrier Division, Enforcement Division. So he was leaving here to go out on the road. Our day just went on.
Decided I was going to go down US 20 out here, and I was going to stop the first commercial motor vehicle that come across. And as I went down the road, all the vehicles in front of me were kind of swerving out of the way, and I suddenly realized that there was a van in my lane of travel coming at me. So my first thought was, what's this guy doing? I pulled up, my light's already on. I just bumped my siren real quick. And when I hit my siren, he lifted his head up, and when he lifted his head up, his head went back. And then I realized that something was wrong with him. At that same time, he started moving forward. And by then, we were starting to kind of veer off the south side of the roadway. I pulled up in front of him and kind of forced his van to stop. Pulled him out of the van and realized that he didn't have a pulse, and started CPR and was asking for assistance.
We all carry our two-way radios, which monitors state police frequency. And we overheard that Dale was requesting an ambulance for a heart attack victim. So Brett and I jumped into his truck and ran down there.
They were probably there within 5 minutes and came down there with an AED. I did not have an AED at the time. And they hooked, as I was doing CPR, they hooked the AED up to him.
All my training kicked in, and we just did what we needed to do.
We got, I think, 2 or 3 shocks in before he came back. Honestly, without him listening to the radio and without the AED, it probably would have turned out a different way.
The Hoosier Helpers are prepared for all types of emergency situations, not only within Indiana, but throughout the nation if such a need arises. In 2005, such a need did arise when Hurricane Katrina tested the humanity and brotherhood of the American people. And of course, the Hoosier Helpers were there to answer the call.
I believe our Indiana task force deployed on a Wednesday, middle of the week. And after being down there for less than a day, I got a phone call from the state police commander that was down there at the time that, hey, we really need you down here.
The reason we were sent down there because all of the Task Force 1 and all the resources from Indiana were going down there, and there was so much of a debris field that they were getting flat tires and needed some mechanical assistance. Total devastation down there. I mean, we were sleeping in a parking lot.
We weren't staying at the Holiday Inn. We literally were camping in a parking lot of the Biloxi Convention Center. And that became our base of operation. The National Guard brought in cots, and we essentially slept in the parking lot with mosquito nets out in the open.
Which didn't mean nothing to me because I knew the next day when I got up, I got to go help somebody. And these people were really in need.
So they spent a lot of time, once they got down there, providing vehicle services, so to speak, for the public safety community so that the police officers and fire and EMS personnel could get around as best they could to reestablish emergency services in that part of the state. As the debris started getting cleaned off the roadway, they were able to fall back more into their traditional freeway service patrol operation along I-10.
They wound up putting us on Interstate 110 and 10. We were actually providing services to the locals as well. After we had came back from Biloxi, we were still getting phone calls from folks down in Biloxi wondering if a Hoosier Helper could help them.
You really could see stories of hope in such a devastating situation. You know, the human spirit really showed its best during that time, and it kind of helped me at a personal level put things in my own life in perspective. And to say it was a life-changing experience is probably an understatement. I think all of us that went down there brought back some of that into our own lives.
It was very eye-opening. It was a great honor. I would do it again at the drop of a hat. We are part of Task Force 1 now, so if something of that magnitude ever happens again and they need our assistance, we'll be there.
They will be there, just as they always have, whether it's managing traffic in large-scale events or managing their share of a national-level disaster. The Hoosier Helpers have proven time and again that they are ready to rise to the challenge. However, such dedicated service does come with some inherent risk.
It's an extremely dangerous job. We always train our guys, don't ever turn your back to traffic. The only thing we have on us is, our vests and our aero boards and our cones, and that's it.
I tell them every day before they go out, be careful, because you never know. I always said I had eyes in the back of my head, but since my accident, I haven't said that. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. 2 semis caught fire. It was a major crash. 2 of the truck drivers were injured, but we had all lanes closed southbound. And I was parked in the center lane with my cones out, and a motorist didn't see me or my traffic control and hit me about 70 miles an hour. And it critically injured me. Matter of fact, they said I wouldn't walk again, but thanks to the wonderful doctors in Indianapolis, they put my spine back together and I'm walking.
I worry about them on every given day. When they go out in the morning and when they exit the garage in their truck, they know as well as we do that there is a chance that somebody's not going to come home. And because of that, it really helps us become a really close-knit unit.
You got to have that. You got to be able to help each other and watch each other's back. And that's what it's all about, the brotherhood, not only with us, with Indiana State Police, EMS, anybody that we work with.
That sense of camaraderie and brotherhood is essential not only to keeping the Hoosier Helpers safe out on the roads, but also to keeping those same roads safe and moving for the motoring public. A majority of the time, this level of public service goes without much thanks. Fortunately, this is not one of those instances.
The Hoosier Helpers are often acquainted to as highway angels or God-sent help.
Through comment cards we would hand out, letters that we would get. Folks felt that the Hoosier Helpers were, angels sent from heaven. You get letters that would state, I don't know who started this program, but whoever did has my vote. Finally seeing my taxpayer dollars used for something of value. We put those cards up on a bulletin board where our Hoosier Helpers see those every day before their shift.
I truly am thankful for all the help you all offer. Please keep up the good work everyone is doing.
Appreciate your help, your hospitality, and concern when I was broke down about 130 miles from home.
This is a beautiful service that you provide. Bill cared. He has a beautiful heart, and I pray that you all find more Bills to help people. He brings so much sunshine to what is a very dark world at times.
I love it. Love this job. Hoosier Helpers pretty well says it, helping. It's just helping someone, making their life more pleasant than what it was at that moment. You know, ribbons and medals don't mean anything. What you get, what you knowing that you help someone means a lot. And that's what it's all about.
Hoosier Helper. The story of Indiana's Hoosier Helpers is made possible through the support of the following sponsors.
When the unexpected happens on the road, State Farm is there to help you get to a better state. Proud sponsor of Hoosier Helpers, and by a grant from Iron Mountain Systems.